joined by me, Eva Tasheva, Cyen co-founder, and my colleague Eva Saeva, and we will show you what is the medical devices regulation, cybersecurity requirements. We would review as well the in vitro diagnostic medical devices regulation. This is specifically important for medical devices producers and vendors who need to comply with these regulations to sell to the EU market, but also other stakeholders such as hospitals, users, government officials might find this information useful. But before we deep dive into the security requirements, a quick overview of what is the MDR, IVDR, and what are the novelties in the latest regulation. The medical device regulation, medical devices in general are considered those such as diagnostic equipment, surgical instruments, monitoring devices, implantable devices, infusion pumps, rehabilitation equipment. So those are MDR medical devices which fall under the MDR. The in vitro medical devices could be devices which are used for examination of specimen derived from human body, such as blood or tissue sample, to provide information about patient's health condition. Very important is to understand that the two regulations do not cover all health-related devices. For instance, devices which incorporate human blood products, plasma or blood cells, or cosmetic products, something that we all use, fall outside of the scope of the two regulations, MDR and IVDR. Probably you know already as a manufacturer, as a distributor, that MDR and IVDR are there on the market, on the EU market, regulating safe use and deployment of medical devices since 1994. So in the last 30 years, we have had such regulations, but with 2017 review, something has changed besides the direct applicability being a regulation in both cases. Something very important for us, a security expert, has also changed. The notion of IT security was introduced. We all know how everything becomes connected, including the medical sector, medical devices, hospitals. And so with all this connectivity, we have seen in the past that cybersecurity becomes an issue. In that sense, security-related objectives of this regulation are to achieve high level of protection of health for patients and users. So this is the ultimate objective, and more often IT, ICT, and technology is part of this protection. So this is why regulations introduce a requirement for better design and supervision of security of the medical devices. As a consequence, all manufacturers of medical devices or in vitro diagnostic medical devices, or the relevant vendors and providers who we mentioned, who want to access or be placed on the EU market, need to implement IT and cybersecurity measures and notify incidents, serious incidents linked to medical and IVR devices in the EU. And Eva will walk you through the high-level overview of cybersecurity requirements in the regulations.
Indeed, thank you, Eva. So in a nutshell, the medical devices regulation, and is shortened MDR and IVDR, in vitro medical devices regulation, they regulate the safety and effectiveness of the devices according to the state of the art. What does that mean? It means, as Eva briefly mentioned, the device performance, the device safety and reliability, and the performance throughout the full life cycle of the device. In more detail, this means that these devices need to be designed, manufactured, and maintained throughout their life cycle in a way that prevents unauthorized access, protects against potential security threats, and safeguards the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. And this data could be either personal or non-personal. And this could be achieved, for instance, through secure software development practices, through addressing the vulnerabilities, if vulnerabilities are discovered, patching them, if a patch is available, and ensuring the device's software is updated regularly and securely. And manufacturers need to consider, for instance, security-related standards and guidance, for instance, the implementation of ISO 27000 standard for information security. Another thing the two regulations regulate is the removal of IT-associated risk as far as possible. And in more detail, this means we talk about risk management, we talk about risk control measures, minimization of the risks, and interaction and interoperability between the software and the hardware and the external and outside environment. So manufacturers of these devices need to demonstrate that they have assessed the appropriate risk and determined the proportion of security measures to be taken when manufacturing the device. Clearly, however, security incidents do happen, and no matter the measures that might have been taken, they could occur. And the two regulations tell manufacturers what to do if a serious incident happens. Clearly, serious incidents need to be reported to the relevant competent authorities. What is a serious incident? Again, the two regulations tell us that these are incidents that directly or indirectly lead to a death of a patient, for instance. The temporary or permanent serious deterioration of a patient or another person's state of health, or for instance, a serious public health threat. And we do have a timeline for incident notification, immediate and no later than 15 days of casual relationship established between incident and medical device, between the incident and medical device, and shorter, maximum 10 days. Incident notification in case of death or serious unexpected deterioration of a person's health. Incident notification needs to be reported immediately and no later than 2 days in case of a threat to public health. After a serious incident has occurred, the manufacturers need to perform an analysis of the serious incident. Clearly, after they have reported it, they need to investigate why, the reason behind the incident happening. And this clearly needs to include a revised risk assessment of the incident and the field safety corrective action.
And what you explained, Eva, about incident notification rings a bell probably to many of you who follow us, because we have discussed cybersecurity incidents and notification in previous videos. What does that mean is that you have obligations which are in MDR and IVDR, which overlap with other security related requirements at EU, but also, and most importantly in this case for producers, is the fact that there are multiple EU security rules and regulations which apply depending of the scope and of the processing activities of the manufacturer, of the company, and of the device itself. For instance, we have the EU GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, applicable when it comes to the use or processing of personal data. There again, we have incident notification requirements linked to the relevant authorities for data protection authorities, in addition to any other incident notification under other regulation, such as, again, security-related regulation, NIS, Network Information Security, and the revision NIS2, which we also deep dive into one in another video you could check, which also now is applicable to manufacturers, including medical device manufacturers, but also to essential entities such as a healthcare provider or medical device manufacturers, which are critical for public health. It is not clear at this moment what is the specific relationship between MDR and NIS2. There is a lot of overlap in terms of scope, in terms of requirements, but as a rule of thumb, both are applicable. Such requirements, which are usually overlapping, go around security measures in the design phase, the testing, the risk management, the access management, encryption, which encryption is also a cornerstone of the GDPR, personal data protection. But there are also specific requirements in NIS2, for instance, which go around management engagement. You also have specific requirements under MDR, which are not present in the other regulations, such as requirements for operation, for the device to operate securely in a different environment. So this to say is that their reviewed regulations, while they're very specific for medical devices and in vitro medical devices, are not the full story. There is a whole other spectrum of regulations which apply and guidance which is prepared and would be published in autumn 2023, linked to the security measures and notification under NIS2, which might also clarify this relationship with MDR. And last but not least, we can mention as well the AI Act, which is close to adoption at the EU. Again, a regulation which we review in depth in our channel. This would introduce specific software-related requirements for AI integrated with medical devices. And we would also review the Cyber Resilience Act, which aims at regulating connected devices. Any product with digital element would fall under the Cyber Resilience Act, with another set of secure development and notification requirements. So to keep in mind, this MDR, IVDR, very specific with security requirements specific to medical device producers and distributors, but there are other regulations to take into place, much of which we reviewed in our channel. So subscribe and check them, especially the playlist we created for you called EU legislation. And we would continue to produce interesting content, for instance, deep dive into the interception between the different regulations when it comes to specific actors such as medical device producers. What does that mean for them?